Hi, Tracy. Thanks for joining me today to talk about humanizing.
Hi, Michelle. Great to be here.
I thought we would start with kind of a different approach to this conversation. And I wanted to ask you, what, in your opinion, would an unhumanized online learning experience feel like as a student? I think sometimes we focus so much on the humanizing part, but it might be better to just kind of start with the opposite to try to stress why this topic is so important.
Well, I think it would feel really lonely. Um, it would feel like you are in an empty classroom and no other students are there. There's no instructor there. Maybe there are a few instructional items sitting around, but it's up to you to pick them up and figure out what to do with them and figure out how to use them. But at the same time, I think I would also feel a little bit of panic because I know that I'm supposed to be graded on what I do with these objects that are just sitting around me. And without any human being there to explain to me what I should be doing, I would also be really terrified that I'd be failing the class and not understanding what I'm supposed to do.
Very good points. And why do you think that's particularly important for us who teach at the community college level?
Well, I think our students come to us looking for guidance and looking for support on this educational journey. They may be the first ones in their families to go to college. They may be the first ones at this particular college. So, on campus, we often see students who look lost and we ask them if they need help and we walk them to the building that they're looking for just to kind of smooth their path and make sure that they have a positive and successful day. And sometimes our online students are a little bit invisible in that sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for me personally, I tend to try to not do so much comparison of face-to-face to online, but that is such a striking and compelling point. When we think about what we do as community college educators, we know how important that support is on campus. And yet sometimes it doesn't transfer to the classroom type of connection online all the time. So, okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the fun stuff. Tell me a little bit about what's important to you when you kind of humanize your online class. What strategies are really close and important to what you do?
Well, for me, I want to be that same person who would help the lost student on campus. So I want to be somebody who is approachable and somebody that students will go to if they have a question or if they need some help. So in that face-to-face scenario, if I'm scowling as I'm walking quickly across campus, looking at some papers in my hand, people aren't going to stop to ask for help. And I'm not going to notice that they need help. So in an online environment, my mission is to open myself up, make myself available for questions, convince my students that I'm here for them, and that's why I am teaching this class. And then also to keep my head up, so to speak, to be looking around for areas where I can ask students if they need help. So a humanized class is one that actually has a human being leading it.
Yeah. And I think that those two different points you made there, not only about being approachable, but being aware of what's happening around you, because that's something that you really have to very proactively kind of cultivate, that sense of awareness in an online class. So I'm glad you brought that point up as well. So what would you like to share with us? Because we are always so excited to see examples of humanizing.
So I was looking through my courses and thinking about what I might want to share, and really the moments in the class where I feel like I'm connecting with my students, those are my key humanizing moments. And often that just comes from being myself, not being a professor, not being the one who's giving the grades, but letting them actually see who I am. So that involves being goofy, letting them see a little bit of my life, maybe sharing a story with them, and talking to them in student-friendly language and with a more casual and supportive tone. So I pulled out a few different places in my class that illustrate that. And so if I can screen share, I will just show
Go right
them.
ahead. We are ready.
All right. Okay, so here we are on the homepage for the first week of the course. I changed this after week 1, but when they first come into the class, I want them to have a really clear sense of what they should do first. So they'll probably first look at the banner and say, okay, I'm in the right place. And then they'll look around for how to get started. So I have getting started in nice big letters here, and I have the start here button, which will take them directly into the first module for the class. And I've always had those pieces, but what really wasn't here was me welcoming them in. So in a face-to-face class, I stand at the door and I welcome people as they come in, and I smile at them and I ask them how parking was and start to bond with them. So I wanted to do something similar to that. And so I put myself on the homepage where I can introduce myself to the students as they come in and make sure that they can find their seats, so to speak. So I'll just show you this very, very short video. Welcome to our course. I'm Tracy Schaelen, your instructor. You've landed on the homepage for our course, and your next step is to click the big blue Start Here button. This will take you to the Getting Started module, which contains everything you need for your first day of class. I'll see you there.
That's so awesome. How warm and welcomed your students must feel.
Well, that was the goal. I wanted to keep it very short. I didn't want to give them any heavy material or complex information. I just wanted them to feel like they were welcomed into the class and then know what to do next.
And do you find, I'm assuming you're going to agree with me, but maybe you won't, but do you find that that's kind of an aha moment for faculty when they see a video like that and think, oh, because I think oftentimes faculty associate videos with lectures. Mm-hmm. But to think about how you can use video in these more kind of just minuscule ways to scaffold experiences is really a mind shift.
Yeah, and I think it also opens up some new possibilities for them, because when they think video in terms of lectures, they think of a significant time investment. It's going to be a longer video. They have to prepare their materials. These are just fun, short videos that can help them bond with their students, and they don't have to take any longer than the video length itself. So I think it's kind of liberating. It's freeing for people to see that those are.
I think so too. I hope people agree. I think so too. Yeah.
I know I have certainly got addicted to those. So I'll show you a couple more that are along the same lines that are just fun. Great. And I don't always just do fun videos. I do have lecture videos as well. But I think these are so important because, again, going back to that face-to-face classroom, I would never just walk in a room, lecture, and walk out. Mm-hmm. I want to be with my students. I want to, have them feel comfortable to ask me questions and have real conversations with them. And in an online environment, you need to develop that rapport as well. Okay, so I'll share one more thing that I accidentally discovered about developing rapport. This is a discussion. And so I like to be the first person to post in the discussion so that students can see that I'm there and that I'm ready to have this conversation with them. And I very deliberately have a picture of me and my dog here, because I found that pets are the great icebreaker in icebreaker discussions. I always get lots of questions and comments when I put a picture of me and an animal, because students, they get to see me as a human being. And they have found something that they might be able to connect with me on. So I'll have students talk about their animals or share a picture of them with their animals. And if they happen to have a dog that looks like mine, for example, then they feel like they've got a connection with me. So
that's a great tip.
Yeah, so this is actually an icebreaker that doesn't have anything to do with pets. It's the 2 truths and a lie icebreaker, and I do play along with that as well, so that, again, they have a chance to get to know me. But I find that the picture of me with my dog is something that always gets a reaction. Okay,
so 2 things. 1, your dog is adorable, but 2, which one is a lie? Because I'm dying to know.
Would you like to guess, Michelle?
I'm going to guess number 3 is a lie.
You would be wrong.
Oh my goodness.
Number 2 is a lie.
For some reason, I can picture you on a unicycle more than I can picture you feeding a wild bear.
Well, it's never too late to learn how to ride a unicycle. But actually, that I had a lot of people who were curious about that number 3 in this discussion. As you can see by the date, this just happened a couple of weeks ago. And so that gave me a chance to do some storytelling. So I told them about how I used to live in state parks when I was a kid, and how I had opportunities to interact with wildlife, and how I found this baby bear all by itself. And I got to just tell a fun story. And so then for the next few weeks, that's what they're remembering. Mm. And maybe they share it with somebody else. And then, I become a person in their lives outside of just giving them content.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. I think, I try to get faculty to think about storytelling, but having those ideas and those practices about how to get to the storytelling is really, really helpful. And that's just such a great example that you gave there.
I try to do the 2 truths and a lie most semesters because it's just so much fun for students, and I've never had it fall flat. But lately, in the last couple of courses, I found that if I can make my statements potential stories, no matter which one they pick, that does give me more openings to have these conversations with them.
Great. Do you have something else to share, or do you want to stop screen sharing?
I do. So I wanted to share, this is a little bit different. This is later on in the semester when we start using Voicethread. And this is the first time that we're using it. And so I just recorded a quick little 16-second video so that when they got here, this is the first thing that they would see. So this gets back to the, having fun with video and using it to connect with students. I'm going to go full screen so you can see this a little bit better. You made it to our voice thread. Woohoo! Welcome. If you look down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the arrow to take you to the next slide. I'll see you there. So,
that's great.
Just had it lying around and thought I'd put it to use. But, those sorts of things, especially in new experiences, go a long way. So this is a new technology for a lot of my students. They might be a little bit nervous using it because it's unknown. So once they have been successful and they can see me talking to them, they know that they've made it there. And then we can, get down to having fun with it. So again, that trying to connect with them and trying to be there when they need me to be there.
Mm-hmm. Powerful takeaways.
Okay, I have one last example. Okay. So what we've been talking about so far is kind of set up ways to humanize a class, but I think the other part of it that's really important is to humanize the assessment part of a course, because that's where there's a lot of student anxiety, especially in an online course. We're asking a lot of our students when they don't get to see us face-to-face, maybe ever, and they are giving us their work for us to give them feedback on and give them a grade on. And so if we don't have, a sense of trust there, it's very difficult for students to grow. And so I think that the more that we can kind of humanize the assessments, the quicker they feel comfortable with getting feedback, and they're more likely to take it in the right spirit too. So I like to use video feedback to achieve that goal. This is a fake course, a fake student, a fake paper. But I just wanted everyone to kind of see what it looks like from a student point of view. If you get a paper back, maybe you have some comments in the margins, which is fairly common. And sometimes those text-only comments can start to feel a little threatening. They can start to feel like negative criticism versus constructive criticism. They can start to feel more like failures instead of feedback. And so I always like, especially early on, to include some video feedback as well, because then they can hear my tone of voice, they can see my facial expression, they can relax a little bit so that they can really pay attention to what I'm suggesting. So this is a really short one. Great job with this. Virtual high five. So that's just a little snippet, since I don't want to use a real comment. But then after that, I would go on and talk about some of the really fabulous things in this paper and maybe 1 or 2 overall suggestions. So if they see that first, then they're in the right frame of mind to act on the feedback that I'm giving them.
Mm-hmm. So I know that sharing this with faculty, many of them are going to say, well, is it okay for us to do that if it's not captioned?
That's a really good question. So in this case, this is a video that I'm recording for one individual student in my class. It's not instructional content. It doesn't actually appear in the class. It only appears in the speed grader attached to this assignment. So if this student does not need captioning, there's no need to caption it. However, if you have a student who does need captioning, then absolutely you can caption it, but it's not a necessity for one-time, one-to-one feedback videos.
Excellent. Okay.
One other note kind of along those lines is when you first start using video feedback, you can always offer your students options too. So there may be some students who don't need captioning, but maybe they would just prefer text feedback for whatever reason. So offering them options is always a good idea in the beginning too.
Yeah, Lene and I have talked about that, and we were thinking about how helpful it would be to have that in a form or a questionnaire in week 1 and say, I will be sharing video feedback with you, and then ask them if you give students the option to say, well, I would prefer text. And so that way that's been identified up front.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And you could maybe even include a sample video feedback video so that they could see what that looks like and decide if that's for them.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Do you want to go ahead? Oh, perfect. Go ahead.
Stop sharing? Yes.
Yeah, so we can see each other's faces again. Well, that has been so incredibly helpful for me, Tracy. And I just, I think about the folks who are just getting new and acclimated to online teaching, or just this concept of humanizing. Maybe it's new to an instructor who's been teaching online a while, but if I had these practices when I started teaching online, I would have been so much better. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you on behalf of your peers and also on behalf of all of our students.
Well, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And Michelle, I have to tell you that one of the first experiences I had as a student in a humanized class was a class that you were teaching. So thank you for motivating me to humanize my classes.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's true. It's absolutely true.